So when you make your coil pot, I want you to come up with a design that you want to do. You're gonna come up with a basic shape that you want your coil pot to be, and I'm gonna show you how to make it exactly how you want it, all right? By the size of the coils. So come up with a basic shape that you want to do, and then as we get into the coil pots, then you can decide if you wanna put a design around it. And in addition, you guys know how to add coils, so you can go ahead and you can add things to your pot, just like you did your pinch pot, okay? So we're gonna start off using all the same supplies. So you are going to need slip, but in addition, you're going to need a rolling pin, and I'm gonna show you why. So we're gonna set up just like normal. And the difference between the coil pot and the pinch pot, the very first difference is we're gonna make a base, all right? So I'm gonna require that your pinch pots are 8 inches high. So you don't wanna make the base huge because that would be a huge pot, 8 inches high, right? So you wanna keep the base relatively manageable size. So I have some clay ready for you guys, and you're gonna need more clay than you did for your pinch pots because we're going bigger. So it's gonna be really important that you keep your clay wrapped up. So whenever you grab clay, grab a couple bags so that you can keep it moist. Did you guys discover in your pinch pots that the moister you kept your clay, the easier your life was?
Yeah.
When it gets dry, it's bad. So that's why I keep on stressing you've got to cover your clay. All right, so to make the base for the pinch pot, in addition, I'm gonna post this on YouTube, but I have multiple resources posted on Clever for you guys how to see to make a pinch pot, because everybody does it different, okay? All right, so this is a little dirty. I don't like it. So I'm gonna shake that out because I don't want those crusty things in my pot. All right. So to start the base for your coil pot, the best way to do it is to flatten your clay as much as possible, okay? Then go ahead and slam it down. And I just reclaimed this clay, so it's pretty moist. Now we're gonna roll this out to make it flat. But in order to make it consistent, we need something to make it consistent. I have the rolling pins out, but in the drawer over here, I have rulers. These are wooden rulers, and these are just for clay, all right? We use metal rulers to draw with because they make a more precise line. Wooden rulers get nicks in them, and it's hard to make straight lines, okay? So what you're gonna do is use the rulers as a guide and put them beside your clay. And then take a rolling pin, and the rulers won't let you go too far. Does that make sense? They'll stop you. So I'm gonna stop when the rolling pin hits my ruler, okay? All right, now you can use anything around the room that you want to make your base, to do it as a guide. Typically, the lids work, oh, I'm sorry. Typically, the lids work pretty good. I have more lids over here. I saved tons. You can use a compass. You can cut it out with paper. But you can put something down for a guide, okay? This base is probably a little bit too big, but I'm gonna roll with it. So now, the best thing you can use, I'll get out some more needle tools you can use from my desk, but realistically, a pencil works very well. So I'm just gonna cut around this lid. And then you have to be careful how much you push, because sometimes the clay wants to get stuck in the lid, okay? All right, so now you have a nice even base. And I use the rulers because the rulers are going to put you at approximately 1/4 inch for your base, and that's gonna be plenty thick enough, okay? Then once you get your base finished, over in the cupboards, actually at the end of the sinks. And I didn't get any of this out because I want you guys to see where to get it. So down here, I have boards that you can use to put your clay on, to put your coil pot on, because you're going to be turning it. Your pinch pots, you turn them in your hand. These are going to be so big that you can't. So you can put your coil pot on one of these wooden bases, and they're covered with plastic, so it helps keep your clay moist, and then your clay doesn't stick, okay? So here is your base, and basically I'm just gonna show you how to add a coil to your pot. I'm gonna show you the easiest, best way to do it. I'm done with these. I'm just gonna go ahead and put a couple up here. Okay. So on the videos that I show you, there's multiple ways to make the coil. This is how I start mine, all right? And I still don't like these creepy things on me. Okay, so when I roll, remember I told you sometimes it works best to stand up so you can hold this down. Can I have an assistant? Selena, would you just hold that down for me, please? Because I'm working opposite you guys. So I'm gonna hold this down with my body, and I'm gonna roll this coil. Do you see how my hands are moving, and do you hear that it's moving 360?
Yeah.
If you're rolling it wrong, here's what it sounds like. You get a thump, thump. Do you hear the roll now? You wanna hear the roll. And you wanna make sure that you roll it long enough that it's gonna fit all the way around your pot, and you can check that. Okay, so that's gonna work. Thank you. So now I'm going to carefully wrap this around my pot, and or around my base. And what I'm doing is I go on top, not the outside, okay? So I'm going to wrap this around my pot, and then the next thing I'm going to do is overlap them, and then I'm going to cut this coil, and I'm going to cut it at an angle like this. And that's going to make those two coils fit together. So now when I go to add these coils, they fit together at an angle, okay? All right, so we can never forget that we have to score and slip everything. And even the coil that I'm going to add. Is that me?
No.
Okay. So then I'm gonna add slip after I score, and then I'm going to place my coil on top of my base, making sure it's all on the inside. Okay, now that's not enough. The next thing is you have to work the coil into the pot, because our goal is we don't want people to even know it's a coil pot. Well, you have a nice haircut too. Looks good, Mary. All right, so we have to work the coil into the pot. So on the inside, I'm gonna push that coil into my base. So I'm gonna push it right in there. I'm not doing all of my, and do you see how I can just move that base around and work with it? Okay, then on the outside, I'm gonna go ahead and work my base right into that coil. Now I messed up, and you can see it here. See, the coil is too thin right here, and it's too thick right here. It's not consistent, okay? Jacob, there's no reason that you're back there. I don't understand what's going on. Come away from, come. Why are you guys hiding behind a wall? Come on in. Okay, so I could have done better right there, all right? So now I'm going to work that in a little bit more right there because I see it. And then on the outside, I'm gonna make sure that the coils hook together. And I'm gonna go ahead and work that base right up onto that coil. And I'm gonna turn and work all the way around. Okay. And then once I get it all attached, I can do some more refining. Because at this point, if I scored and slipped it and I worked it into the base, it's pretty secure. So now the only other things I do now are cleaning it up. And this is the point where you want to make that first coil really neat and clean. Because when you get bigger, you won't be able to fit your hand in there and get it in there and do it. So get your bottom really clean now. And the way you want to think about it is, and I'll mention this again, when you have a vessel, if you put a marble in it and start twirling the marble around, you want the marble to flow. You don't want it to go clunk, 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 clunk. You want it to whiz around. You want the inside of your pot to be nice and beautiful. Okay? So then you just do the same process. And every day I'm gonna show you something just a little bit different. So now if I want my pot to go straight up, I'm gonna do the same thing, and I need a little bit more clay. And I'm just gonna show you one thing to start with the process. So now I just add a little bit of wet clay to that clay I already had out. And I get it as close to a coil shape as I can. And then I move everything out of my way. And I start doing 360 with my coil. Thank you. And do you see how I'm using this part of my hand? And do you see how I'm moving my hands? And I have to stand up when I do this. I can do it sitting down, but I'm better when I stand up. And so then I would score and slip, and then I'm gonna show you, so if you're going straight up, you put the coil right on top, okay? You always put the coil right on top. You don't want it on the side because it's gonna make your pot too thick there. You always put it on top of the other one. How I control the shape of my pot is, if I want my pot to get smaller, I make my coil smaller, okay? A little bit smaller. So, if my pot needs to start going in, do you see how my coil's right on top, but do you see how it's shorter than the one below it? So that's how I'm gonna make it go in. If I want my coil, or if I want my pot to get bigger, I make my coil longer and I still put it on top. But now do you see how I can't see that coil that's underneath it? Okay? It's still on top, but it's longer, all right? Longer coils make the pot bigger. Shorter coils make it smaller. And you can only go in like so much at a time. You can only make it so small at a time, okay? If you try to make it make your pot go in, like if I tried to do this too quickly, the pot will collapse. If you try to make it too small, too quick. So every coil, you just start getting a little bit shorter, okay? And like I said, we'll talk about that later. So the first thing I need for you all to do is decide what kind of coil pot you're gonna make. You have to know what you're making or you don't know how to do it, all right? So you can start looking at ideas. You can take your phone and look up Coil Pot ideas and find one you really like and copy it. That's perfectly fine, okay? All right, do you guys have any questions? All right. Yeah, do you have a question?
The Coil Pots are good.
I didn't understand what you said.
Coil Pot. Alright. Pots are good.
He's right. Coil pots are good. So now we run into the dilemma where initially you're going to be able to double bag your coil pot with one of these bags. And then as your pot gets bigger, I'll give you bigger bags so you can put it. And then we might run out of room in your locker if you have two people with a big coil pot. So remember, all those shelves are for you guys to use to put your coil pots. I emptied them so you have plenty of room to use. Okay? All right. Yeah, I think